we're talking all about providers today. So where are you going to give birth and who are you going to give birth with? This is because we've evaluated your priorities, your family's priorities, your partner's priorities, and now we get to see how those priorities all come together and enables you to pick the right provider, because we have a secret to tell you. You're not going to change your provider's mind. If they're practicing a certain way and you want delayed cord clamping and that's not their standard of care and they kind of look at you funny and say you're crazy, even though that's a pretty standard thing to want and it's beneficial to baby, and we all know that, if they are practicing it, you aren't going to change their mind. So,
all right.
Here we are today.
So that's right. We are going to talk about how do you choose your provider. And maybe some of you guys have already chosen a provider, or you have been assigned a provider by your insurance company. But we want you to know that you do have a choice, and you want to make sure that the provider that you see for your pregnancy is someone that is already practicing the birth that you desire, the type of births that you desire, and that you can communicate with them, that you have that calm about you when you walk into their office so that you can communicate openly and effectively and not feel like they're just going to dismiss your wishes.
Right. We don't want you to feel that way. We want you to feel empowered. And if you are in your doctor's office or your provider's office, let's just say that, and they walk in and you feel almost immediately like flustered or tense, that's not a good sign, because this person is going to be supporting you during your labor, which is a highly emotional, hormonal time. So if we're not even there yet and we feel that way, it's important to recognize those things.
Right. Some of the key questions to ask your provider is how many C-sections do they perform? What is the standard C-section rate at that hospital or wherever you are choosing to give birth? That number is going to tell you a lot of information about their practice.
Right.
Previously I worked at a hospital, and there was one particular provider that she was known for their cesarean sections. Okay, so if it came down to that you had to have a C-section, she might have been the one that you wanted.
Right.
But if you're not going into your birth with that desire, then that provider was probably not your best option. Right. So it's okay if you have a current provider and you're feeling uncomfortable. It is okay to switch providers.
Absolutely. I was just going to piggyback that. Ask too, what's their induction rate? Like, how many women, when do they induce, and how many do they usually induce? I once knew a provider who only worked, he took 3 days a week off. How does a OBGYN take 3 days a week off? Well, by scheduling everything. So important things to ask before you're at that date where he's like, well, you need to be induced because I don't work Wednesday.
Exactly. And the other thing to consider, maybe you're not choosing an OBGYN. Maybe you really want to have a midwife, whether it be a lay midwife or a certified professional midwife that you're going to a birth center or a home birth. Again, it's still important to ask that midwife the questions that you want answers to, because just because they're a midwife does not mean they automatically practice the birth that you desire. So you really want to have a good connection with your provider, so that you walk into your birth experience at ease and with peace, rather than feeling tense as soon as you go into labor because you're worried about what that provider is going to say or do when you get there.
Right, exactly.
So we have some people that have commented with the type of provider that they currently have. And
can you search or find details regarding specific providers? That's a great question, and the answer is, for providers, it's really hard. Hospitals, you can kind of track down their rates of C-section and things like that, but for specific providers, unless there's kind of a forum out there where people are talking about it, you have to go directly to the source and ask them, and frankly, some of them don't want to talk about it. So You have to
Well,
be really, you have to feel good and confident in the way that you come to your appointments and ask in a way that is not also combative to them, where they don't feel like they have to be on the defense. So it's just
right.
learning how to communicate effectively.
Well, and there's something to be said for getting feedback from your peers or people that are around you.
Right.
You know, word of mouth is a powerful tool, and you want to take advantage of it. So if you have a means to ask on a certain forum about certain providers and gather all the information that you possibly can, it doesn't mean that if one person had a bad experience, that's going to be your experience. However, gather as much data as you can so that you're not just basing your opinion off of one person.
Right.
You know, for example, I had 3 hospital births and I was subject to the military. You know, I could have chosen a home birth or a birth center birth, but I chose a hospital birth, and fell into that, well, I don't know what provider is going to be on call when I give birth. And so that's why it's very important to see all the providers that could possibly be there, as well as express your wishes. And with my firstborn, I even had kind of an agreement with my favorite provider. And I said, if I go into labor on a day that you're not on call, what are the chances that you could be the one that comes in to help me deliver my baby? And he said, if I'm not out of town, I will be there. And that gave me great peace of mind, knowing that he was willing to accommodate me and his schedule for my purpose.
Right. And that's super important to know, is just you don't realize how much the fear of the unknown affects your labor. And so if that's in the back of your head, like, oh my gosh, I don't know if they're going to be there, or would they come in, and just some of those things, just talking them out and knowing will help alleviate some of those fears.
Exactly. All right, so you guys rocked it, and a lot of you did your assignment for the morning and commented on our Facebook post about the type of provider that you've chosen. And we're so glad that you did, because it's important for other people to see why you made those decisions.
Right. I think it's really important to hear people who are on their third, fourth, child, and they've had multiple experiences. It's really interesting to see how they kind of have come full circle and figured out what works best for them. So who's up first, Michaela?
All right. Well, Alicia commented and said that she has hired a midwife and is having a home birth. And I have had the pleasure of serving Alicia as her doula for her first birth. And she had an amazing birth, in my opinion. But I think it's awesome that her and her husband have taken their first experience and digested it and decided what they wanted for their second experience. So that's awesome.
Thanks for sharing. Well, you must be really prepared because you are confident in your home birth. So yay.
Mary is having an OBGYN and a hospital birth.
Yay, Mary. You'll have to tell us more about your providers and what you think about them.
Yeah, Mary, if you're watching this, comment with what you've experienced and how you've had communication with your providers. And also, if you guys are watching this and you haven't chosen a provider, or maybe you have but you're still not feeling 100%, comment below with the word BELLY, BELLY, and we will send you our provider questionnaire. So it's a whole list of great questions to ask your provider, even if you've already hired them. It's a way for you to get on the same page.
Right. Get that communication going. If you're not sure how to break the ice because you've established this relationship and you don't want to go in going, now I have all these questions, it's a great way to kind of break the ice and start asking some of those questions.
Exactly. All right. So Katie said she really wanted to have a home water birth, but her husband gave her a firm no.
This is baby one for Katie, right? There might be some minds changing if there's more babies. She might get her home water birth sometime.
But again, you can absolutely achieve your desired birth at the hospital with an OBGYN if that line of communication is open and you know what to ask.
Right.
And you know what your options are. So education is absolutely paramount in having a successful and birth that you feel satisfied with. All right. So next is Sheena, and Sheena has had
She's on baby 4. She and I
Yes, she
are on
is.
the same.
She had an OB in a hospital birth with her first,
Yep.
and felt like that just was not the most comfortable setting for her. So baby 2 and 3 were born at home in the water, and they're planning another home water birth. So awesome.
I like the way she talks about how her husband has even noticed, based on their experiences, that she's more relaxed in her home. And I think that's really, that shows that they're on the same page and that her spouse is able to really connect and see the difference because they've experienced 2 different births. My husband would agree as well. I mean, the after birth part of the home birth is a little more relaxing in the sense that you don't have to move anywhere.
Right. So. And so that being said, if you do choose to have a hospital birth and you want, you still want to try to have that kind of home environment wherever you go, whether it be a birth center or a hospital, education, again, is key. So being able to know what that means for you, what that setting looks like is right. Key.
So really quick, Katie said her OB approved her birth plan for a water birth at a birth center. All right, Katie, you have an incredible OB. That's amazing. We're super excited to hear that.
So that's interesting. You're having an OBGYN at a birth center, not at a hospital?
Maybe the birth center is attached to the hospital. I've seen some of those. So there's maybe that. I don't know.
Yeah. That's interesting. So, Katie, if you could share with us whether it's a birth center attached to a hospital or a standalone birth center, that makes a big difference because you don't see very many birth centers where OBs are the attendees. Instead, usually they're midwives. So, very interesting. Let's see. And then Pauline, she is having a midwife at a hospital. And that is becoming a little more common these days, which is awesome. So, if you are more comfortable in the hospital environment, then that makes sense. But a midwife is going to, generally speaking, be less inclined to go down the intervention bunny trail.
Yes. Oh, look, we have Mary. Mary's talking to us as well. Sorry, guys. We're just learning how to see all of our comments. So bear with us as they're coming up. So Mary said she's had a great communication with almost all of the providers at the hospital. And there's one that she's not met yet, but she's going to meet them at their next appointment. So yay! Everyone seems willing to make sure I have a natural childbirth. So, yay, I think Mary's at the hospital military, right? So, there's rotation of providers. So, it's awesome that you're getting to know them all. So, okay, and Katie says it's attached. Look, she says it's attached. Yay! That is so cool. I wish we could get that direction going in a lot of different places. So, and great midwives. Pauline says great midwives. I think Pauline might be here in Issaquah, and I think I know what midwife group she's talking about, and they are great. We even at that hospital have doulas on a list for moms who walk into the hospital and say, well, I didn't plan, but now I want a doula. There's a list to call. So it's
That's awesome. So I'm curious, this is kind of off topic, but part of your birth team, how many of you guys have hired a doula or are planning on hiring a doula, whether you're having a hospital, birth center, home birth? I'd be curious to know how many people have hired a doula if this isn't your first pregnancy in the past and are planning on hiring one now.
And if you're on the fence, we are here to tell you that they are worth the investment. I mean, this is your birth. You only get to do it so many times. You only get to bring life into the world. So having a doula is statistically, we can talk about that all day. It improves the outcome. But just from the personal experiences that we've had, it's a great investment. And I know a lot of people sometimes say, well, I don't want to spend the money, or husbands think that you don't need to spend the money.
Right.
But I think they're very valuable. And I think Michaela, our resident doula, would agree.
I definitely agree that doulas are valuable. Just in case you are on the fence, doulas are not typically there to replace your support person. Instead, we are there to come alongside your support person so that we can support both of you in your desires. And also, let's just face it, mom has a lot of needs during birth, during the labor process. And sometimes it's a lot for one person to handle. So doulas can be very helpful in having some more arms and legs to help support mom.
Exactly. They're super helpful in so many ways, and they're just comforting. And sometimes dad or your partner gets overwhelmed, or maybe they need to go eat. So there's that constant, someone's in the room and you're never alone. Right. So doulas are great. Hospital birth, home birth, whether you've had a few births, they're always great. Katie says she's considering a postpartum doula. That's great. That's something a lot of people aren't familiar with either. And a postpartum doula comes in and helps you after baby in that 4th trimester. So,
all right. So, do you guys have any more? Feel free to post your questions. Do you have any more questions about, evaluating your priorities, or your partner's priorities, or choosing a provider? If you have any more questions, we'll be on for a couple more minutes. So you can comment those below. And also remember, again, if you want to get our provider questions, comment below with the word belly, and we will send that right on over.
Well, and we kind of forgot to mention that we love doulas, and we're kind of revolutionizing the way doulas are provided, right, at Honest Birth Talk. So we are really trying to help you mamas who don't have access to doulas because, well, we know Michaela's on an Air Force base in the middle of nowhere, and I am from the South, so there's not a lot. So we actually offer a virtual doula package. So if you want one of us to be in your ear,
or your partner's
support person's ear, not your ear, that's also available. So let us know. And yes, you both post birth and postpartum. Pauline's getting both. She's getting a birth doula and a postpartum doula. I love it. You're going to be taken care of.
Awesome.
All right, guys. Well, we'll see you tomorrow for the last day of our mini course. We can't wait. We hope to see you guys all on.
All right, guys. See you later.
Bye.
Bye.